What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the David Carson Show. Sorry about the video. I gotta fix that. I keep forgetting about it. But yeah, I hope you're all having a great day. Happy Friday. Hope you have a good weekend, but I'll be streaming over the weekend, so if you'd like to join me for that, definitely follow me and come and hang out. But we got some interesting stuff to talk about today. The Georgia grand jury recommended charging even more Trump allies, including Senator Lindsey Graham. That grand jury over there is like on a huge power trip. I don't know who these people are, but wow. Massachusetts calls up National Guard to cope with migrants. Whoopi Goldberg mocked for wearing a mask alone at home. What an idiot. CNN has turned on Biden. Hurricane Lee becomes a Category 5 storm. InfoWars employee arrested just for commenting on January 6th. Inside a secret government bunker for seized fentanyl. There's so much fentanyl coming into the country. It is outrageous. Trump or death banner flies at Yankee game. Crazy. Mother wins lawsuit against woke California school district trying to transition her daughter. And Liberty Safe Company slammed for giving backdoor access to the FBI in January 6th case. Very crazy stuff, but let's dive right in, shall we? Georgia grand jury excuse me. Got a frog in my throat today. Georgia grand jury recommended charging even more Trump allies, including Senator Lindsey Graham. Here's a clip.
Jonathan Seri is our reporter on the ground. He has the document now. He's had a chance to look through it. Jonathan, let's get to you now.
Yeah, hi, Dana. One of the some of the most interesting things in this document is the people who were not charged, the people who were not indicted, that this special grand jury nevertheless recommended that the district attorney seek indictments They include former Georgia Senator David Perdue, who had run unsuccessfully for governor. Much of his campaign was focused on allegations that the election had been stolen. Also, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, not charged, but nevertheless a loyal Trump supporter who had been on some of those phone calls to Georgia officials in the wake of Mr. Trump's narrow election loss in the 2020 presidential election. Also, Lynn Wood, a prominent longtime attorney here in Georgia, not only serving on the Trump team, but who really became a household name, at least in the Atlanta area, while defending Richard Jewell, an early FBI suspect in the Olympic Park bombing, who in the end turned out to have nothing to do with that. So very interesting, these people that this special grand jury had recommended indictments against, but once Fani Willis, the DA, brought their investigation to the actual grand jury responsible for these indictments, they were not among the 19 co-defendants who were ultimately indicted. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan.
Wild. Okay, so I see. So they had a special grand jury before. That's interesting. And they were even on more of a power trip than the current grand jury. That's just indicting lawyers and election officials for asking questions. Insanity. Yeah, but yeah, so that's good. Not more people got charged. I'm kind of surprised because, like I said, this grand jury seems like they're on such a super power trip. But who knows? You know, when Fani Willis and Jack Smith were talking to him, and the judge, who knows what he told them? No, it's not illegal, but it should be. So I've said this before. I know of another case where they did that. Irwin Schiff, it was a tax case, and they're like, okay, well, technically it's not illegal, but if it could be, then they found him guilty. It's like, wait, what? How does that make sense? These judges can sway the jury because the jury doesn't know. They're not lawyers. They don't know anything. They're like, oh, okay, if I think it should be illegal, I'm allowed to do it. I'm not saying that every judge does that. Definitely not, but I've heard of it happening before. So that could have been what happened here, potentially, because these guys, or they're just on a super power trip and they hate Trump that much. But it would be insane, like he was just saying, there's 19 people on the grand jury. 19 people, and they all like thought this is a good idea to go after these people. They must have been persuaded. But, you know, that's just my opinion. I guess we'll see how it plays out going forward. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Massachusetts calls up National Guard to cope with migrants. Here's a clip.
Massachusetts buckling under pressure, overwhelmed with the number of migrants arriving in the state. The governor activating the National Guard as the state scrambling now to house and aid the latest wave of asylum seekers.
The
Every state's
situation
dealing
got
with
some
this now.
national attention last year when
Let's
Florida
go, Brandon.
governor and now candidate for president Ron DeSantis flew a group of migrants to the upscale Martha's Vineyard neighborhood. They spent roughly 24 hours there before then relocating. With us now, Ryan Fatman is a Massachusetts state senator. Peter Durant is a Massachusetts state representative. Gentlemen, welcome. And thanks so much for coming out and joining us today. State Senator Fatman, could you talk to us about what's going on in Massachusetts? Again, not a typical
What a
border
last
state,
name,
but clearly
Fatman.
there's a crisis and the governor's forced to respond.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us on and highlighting this issue. It's impacting me very personally because it's right in my hometown, and it highlights a failure of policy both at the national and the state level. You know, when, as you referenced, Governor DeSantis sent migrants to Martha's Vineyard, our governor, Governor Healy, was very critical of that. And yet on August 27th, she sent overnight 56 individuals, migrants, to my hometown in Sutton and didn't tell anybody. They showed up. There was no resources. There was no management team from state government to help facilitate their, welcoming into the community. And we had 7-month-olds, 21 children. Even worse than this, there was no due diligence done at the local hotel, which the local police department has designated a dangerous zone. There was 2 level 3 sex offenders living there at one point, and the own executive office of public safety in the Healy administration sent 2 letters to this hotel saying that their 911 system was out of date and was endangering their employees, their guests, and the general public. So if we're going to institute some humane policies when it comes to trying to help people, let's at least put them somewhere safe. But this is a failure of state and national policy, and we got to do a lot better.
We want to show this, too, in terms of what the state senator was speaking about. State Rep Durant, if I could, protesters were really out in force over the weekend outside the Yarmouth Resort Hotel there, where the state is hoping to set aside 100 units specifically for migrant families. This hotel is one of more than 1,500 temporary hotels and new shelters set up across the state since last year, at least what's been reported here. Can you talk about that, State Rep, and again, how residents of your state feel about this and being able to handle the migrant crisis in the state of Massachusetts?
Sure, and thanks for having me on. I think Senator Fatman hits the nail on the head. Is communities are being impacted here with very little to no warning that these migrants are coming in, that they're being housed, and that they're being provided services. We're seeing them in hotels across the state. We're seeing other state facilities being converted for housing. And in fact, we're actually seeing additional outreach from the administration looking to expand housing in multifamily units throughout the state. So a lot of this is coming down with no warning whatsoever.
This is wild.
No guidance from the
Everywhere is
administration,
overflowing.
and from a legislative standpoint, no idea of what this is costing us. I think if we look at the number of families that have come in, just in the past couple of months, those families have nearly doubled. About 6 weeks ago or 2 months ago, we were looking at about 3,000 families, and today we're looking at in the neighborhood about 5,600, with more arriving every day.
That's a storyline we've been hearing about some of these sanctuary cities or blue states with sort of an open door policy to those seeking asylum. We've seen it in New York. New York Mayor Eric Adams, he's really been pulling no punches when it comes to calling on the federal government to step in. Here's Mayor Adams.
Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City.
When you think of it, Senator Fatman, that is a devastating prediction that we've just heard from the mayor there. Do you see something similar in your home state?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at New York City, they're a right to shelter city. If you look at Massachusetts, we're a right to shelter state. In fact, we're the only one in the entire nation. A law that was passed in 1983 and modified in 1991 that took out a residency requirement saying that if you were coming and you had a family situation with children, you had the right to shelter as long as you were willing to be here legally and permanently. And changed in 1991. Back in May, we took up the state budget and I put an amendment forward to try to close the loophole in that language because I saw this problem coming. I saw it in New York, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize when you're the only state in the nation that has a law in the books that says we're a right to shelter state, that they're coming here. And we need, as Peter mentioned, to get the administration to be more communicative and more competent when it comes to the management. I know that they've decided to bring up the National Guard. Well, when they communicated that to me, I said, well, how many is my hometown going to get? How many guardsmen or women? And they said one. There's now 120 migrants that are living in this dangerous facility of a hotel. It's unacceptable. It's hypocrisy at its finest. And it's a failure in policy, and we've got to have change.
Look, not to mention a lot of these urban areas already are dealing with a homeless crisis. Americans that are homeless here. Now you're adding this to this crisis to the pile there. We appreciate the time of State Senator Ryan Fatman, State Representative Peter Durant there. Thank you so much.
Gentlemen, appreciate it.
Crazy. This is crazy. It's just more and more of the same. The whole country is overflowing. And then the federal judge, because Biden is suing, is blocking Texas from having the border buoys in the Rio Grande. It's like, what are you guys doing? You're not helping at all. They're not helping cities. It's like they want to lose in 2024. It's the weirdest thing to me, because it's like, why would they be doing this when the left even is going away from this? They hate it. People in inner cities, I talk about it all the time, people in inner cities, they're turning on it, like on this policy like crazy. And look at Eric Adams, the mayor of New York. He's even turning on it. So it's just like, this is a failing policy and everyone knows it. And the Biden administration isn't giving funding to any of these cities, and he's not trying to defend the border. You think he would shore up the border, help Texas with the buoys, help Arizona with the cargo train walls. Nope. No. They don't do that at all. They're like, you got to remove them. Why? I don't know. It's like they want conflict in this completely, but they're just going to lose in 2024. Maybe they think it's going to make the left go crazy if Trump wins, so they're just trying to make him win. So, it creates a huge conflict in the country, but I don't think that it'll work. I think, Trump will probably just, shore everything up, but that might be their strategy because, again, it doesn't make sense. You would think they would just go and close off the border because even the left is in these inner cities are turning on them. Maybe they're wanting like the rich kids, like college kids that are indoctrinated in these colleges. Maybe they're like, hey, we're pandering to them, but it's like there's only so many of them though. So, and they might just be cocky, really. They might just be like, inner cities, they're gonna vote left. We don't have to worry about that. But I don't know. I think it'll backfire because this stuff is just getting out of control everywhere in the country, and everyone's starting to realize it. All right, but with that, let's move on to the next story. Whoopi Goldberg is mocked for wearing a mask alone at home. Here's the clip.
Whoopi Goldberg co-hosting The View from home while she recovers from COVID, but apparently she did not think social distancing was enough to slow the spread. Watch.
Let me just make sure you all know that it's actually me.
Why do you have a mask on?
I just have COVID. I'm still testing positive. Apparently, I have to have a clear test before I can come back, so it might be a couple of days. I can't wait to get back and hang out, but until then, it's me and my mask.
Why do you have a mask?
I'm sort of confined to my room.
Fox News contributor and columnist for The Messenger, Joe Concha, and his mask join us now. It's just me and my mask, Joe, in a room by myself. What do you think about that?
Well, Carly, Todd, greetings from my studio here in my basement here somewhere in the swamps of Jersey. I should say I'm alone. It's just me and my mask. All right, enough of this. You can't hear what I'm saying. Anyway, here's the point, guys. The best part about all of this is that Whoopi actually takes off her mask during the segment like you just played. This shows you this is all theater, these performances.
Of course it is.
0.0
This is
to
so
do
dumb.
with the data or the science or basic common sense, but we're going to continue to see this nonsense, and we're going to continue to see people, like I saw yesterday, again, somebody driving in their car alone with a mask on.
Why?
We're going to continue to see fear-mongering from Democrats and its allies and the media in the country over COVID, but most of the country wants to move on and just simply learn to live with it as we have. As Dr. Neshwat said earlier, the study bears repeating, and it's the CDC showing that 17% of adults, 17, that's less than 1 in 5, got their latest COVID booster shot. That says two things. We don't have much confidence in these boosters, and there's a natural immunity factor here as well. Actually, I'll make it 3 things. There's also a major trust issue here with our political and health leaders when it comes to this virus. So when you see Whoopi Goldberg doing that, it's got nothing to do with health, and it has nothing to do with data or the science, guys.
Their liberal god, Anthony Fauci, admitted masks don't work to slow the spread. I don't understand from a psychological perspective why they can't quit them, but that's a question for a psychiatrist. I do not believe you are one. You are a media guy, and our colleagues over at CNN put out a poll that shows 73% of Americans are seriously concerned about Joe Biden's age and mental fitness for office. And if you think that's bad, listen to what Democrats are saying about all this. Here's the raging Cajun himself, James Carville, with a resounding uh-oh.
Well, I guess to say the least, the polls are were not great, and it tells us that voters are expressing some apprehension here. It's pretty clear. I mean, there's not much else you can say when you look at them.
Joe, we've all been talking for months about how scared the Democratic Party is about Joe Biden on the ticket in 2024. But this feels a little bit different to me. Will this CNN poll be the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of getting Joe Biden off the top of the ticket?
Well, this poll isn't an outlier, Todd, right? I mean, we've seen many other polls saying the same thing, where 3/4 of the country doesn't want Joe Biden to run again. But this poll, that particular line there, that 3/4 of the country think
that's crazy.
That they're
He's fighting a losing battle.
This president's mental capacity. How
then with all this, the masks and stuff coming back, people are just like, no, I'm done with this.
A point where we think that's okay, that the leader of this country, our commander-in-chief, and we're worried about if he has the mental capacity for the job. And here's the thing. It's not just another year and a half. We're talking 5.5 years of Joe Biden if he wins re-election. And every Republican running should be asking voters these questions. And they're practically rhetorical to anyone sane or sober. Based on what you see on a daily basis from this president, do you think Joe Biden will improve with age, or do you think he's going to get progressively worse? Are you comfortable with the 86-year-old version of this president occupying the highest office in the land? But you got to put age aside, by the way. And let's look at performance. Is Bidenomics working for you? Is your community less safe than it was 2.5 years ago?
He's also walking around with a mask.
Do you want this country to enjoy energy independence again? Do you want more say in your child's education? Do you believe abortion should happen in the second or third trimester? Are you happy that we spent $500 million? We just sent it to Ukraine to help them have cleaner energy while we have thousands of our military vets homeless in the streets? Do you think the FBI and DOJ should be weaponized against political enemies? If you make this an issues-based campaign based on those questions, Democrats will only have fear to run on and Donald Trump's legal problems. That's the choices here at this point.
Yeah, Biden's approval rating is 39%, 67% according to this poll. 67% of Democrats wish there was an alternative to Joe Biden. And the banner at the bottom of the screen in that clip that we just played of James Carville said, "Fear skyrocket among Democrats as Biden's numbers suffer." So that is not good news for the current president. Joe, have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. Happy Friday.
At all. Man, the people with those masks, I wanted to play the rest of that clip after they moved on, because there's people in that clip with masks on, and Joe Biden's always having his mask on. It's just like, like they were saying, it's Fauci said it himself, right? So yeah. But I think it's hilarious. Whoopi's just in there with it. Is it supposed to be a joke or is it supposed to be serious? I think they're trying to be serious, but Biden did that same thing. They were saying he ran out in the middle of a medal ceremony because they're like, oh no, he didn't want to expose anybody. And then he goes in there and he's just like, I don't have my mask on, but don't tell anybody. Watch my segment from yesterday for like all the details on that. But yeah, it's like, this is all just a joke at this point. But I will leave it there. Let's move on to the next story. CNN has turned on Joe Biden. Here's a clip.
I've been talking a lot about a canary in a coal mine as it relates to Joe Biden, your president. He does not know that tonight is Thursday. But for those of him around him that do know, watch closely, because some of Joe's biggest allies in the media mob, which is nothing other than an extension of the White House press room, they're now starting to turn on the man that they helped elect. Remember the Biden candidate protection program and the presidential protection program and deny that Hunter's laptop is very real program? Well, we predicted that when America's overpaid fake news journalists, they're really talk show hosts like me, except they're not honest enough to say so. And I said so, by the way. You know, they say they accurately are covering Biden's massive cognitive decline and corruption. They have up till now been avoiding it. And allegations that the big guy is in big trouble. Buckle up, because now even fake news, CNN, is starting to tell a little bit of truth. They're beginning to even sound a little like yours truly. Take a look.
This morning, we have brand new CNN polling. The numbers are looking rough for President Biden. We've been talking about it all morning, and the fact that it could be a troubling sign for Democrats and the president's hope for re-election in 2024.
There is no way to spin this. CNN reads the country's mood right now and finds that America is deeply unhappy with Joe Biden. Most Democratic voters hope for a change at the top of the ticket, and Americans don't take the president at his word when he talks about his son, Hunter.
Joe Biden's like that grandpa that you love, that you believe in, you owe a lot, but you start to wonder, would you give this grandpa a high-stress job for 6 more years, or would you want something else for him?
55% of Americans, a majority, believe Biden's actions related to the Hunter Biden probe inappropriate.
Oof, problematic new polling numbers out
they're
this
just
morning
trashing
for President
him.
Biden. The CNN poll finds his approval rating sinking to just 39%.
Wow. Uh-oh. That's right. Biden is now polling at 39%. That's a level that only Jimmy Carter matched. Now, nearly 60% believe that his policies have now made our economy worse. Why? 61% of our fellow Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Average American now owes $54,000 in debt. 58%, and again, a CNN poll, don't like Biden personally. What's to like? They think he's a bad person and unlikable. A whopping 76% are worried about Biden's ability to even serve another term justifiably. 67%.
It's kind of interesting to me how it's so low. You'd think it would be, man, but 76% when most people don't pay attention. I guess that is pretty high. But I'm thinking it would be like 85%, you know.
Percent of Democrats, they wish they could have someone else other than Biden leading the ticket.
Again, I'm surprised that's not
higher. Despite Biden's many, many lies, over 60% of voters think that Biden was involved with his son's business dealings abroad that brought in tens of billions of dollars for Hunter and company with no experience at all whatsoever. They believe Joe.
And we're still a year from the election, so I bet you more people will stop believing him, like, quicker and quicker. Now CNN's even turning on. I'm pretty certain they're going to be reporting on all this stuff. It's like, ooh, it's going to be wild. If you have, like, Wall Street Journal and everyone just bashing Biden, he's going down. It's going to be brutal.
Was involved. A large plurality now believe that Joe Biden actually broke the law. On this program, we have long highlighted Joe Biden's serious misconduct. And get this, no one in the media mob has ever really rebuked our coverage. Remember very early on, I started to say he was weak and frail and a cognitive mess. Yeah, I didn't get much criticism for that. And I talked about Joe Milky at night, warm Milky and sippy cup and going night-night. And if he was really good, he'd get some ice cream before he goes night-night. Anyway, Because everybody with eyes to see knows that it is true. But for years, they just simply ignored what was transparent and obvious to every person. And that is, they did this to protect the big guy. And of course, obsessively, compulsively, hate Trump every second, every minute, every hour of every day, every week, every month, every year. Now, all of this despite a huge amount of evidence that Joe Biden committed really serious crimes. Then, of course, we have the Joe Biden bribery, money laundering allegations. Now we have photographic evidence of him meeting with some of Hunter's business partners, having lunch with some of them, Cafe Milano, oligarchs from Russia, Kazakhstan, elsewhere, 20 phone calls that Devin Archer talked about. We've got eyewitness testimony. We've got texts. We've got emails that Joe benefited financially from all this, and a very lengthy paper trail showing possible money laundering. And of course, look at the amount of money we're talking about. Not a couple of $1,000s. We're talking about tens and tens of millions of dollars.
Lots and
funneled
lots of
to
money.
9 family members of Joe Biden through shady shell corporations, according to House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer. Hunter Biden and his sketchy overseas business deals with China and Russia and Romania and Kazakhstan and Ukraine and Mexico and all these other countries, all these foreign business deals were at the center of it all. And yet Joe Biden's weaponized DOJ, they were ready to sweep it all right under the rug. But now even fake news, CNN, they're starting to sound a lot like this program, more and more. By the way, I'd like to thank them for watching, but they should give attribution for getting the story right to us. Take a look.
DOJ has given me whiplash on this one because 6 weeks ago they did walk into court and they were ready to get rid of this case for a misdemeanor and dismiss the gun charge. Now they're about to indict him for a felony gun charge, which would likely carry jail time if there's a conviction. The only conclusion that I think is consistent with all this is that the whistleblowers were right, that initially DOJ was ready to go in there and give this deal away cheaply. And when the political pressure
figuring this
amped up,
out.
DOJ did a complete 180.
All right, if you keep in track, CNN is now essentially admitting that the Joe Biden bribery, money laundering allegation scandal is very real. They are also accusing Joe Biden's Department of Justice, part of his executive branch. They're accusing them of trying to cover it up to protect the Biden family. And of course, they're also heavily suggesting, yeah, Joe is way too old and too cognitively impaired to run for a second term.
Even they
CNN
know
took
now.
one look at their poll and saw the writing now may be on the wall. They're abandoning ship. Are they the first of many? That's the question. What prominent elected Democrat will follow suit? What other Democrats will follow the example? If any Democratic lawmakers or governors start openly questioning Joe Biden's ethics, his family business, the millions of dollars for seemingly no work, but for influence peddling, and whether or not bribery and money laundering are involved, if they start questioning whether or not he's fit for office, his days as a candidate in the 2024 race, they are now numbered. Let's be clear here. According to my sources, they've already been trashing Biden behind closed doors. No one in the Democratic Party seems to like Joe Biden. They all see what we see. They're just, as of now, not saying it publicly. And by the way, that includes his vice president, Kamala Harris. And by the way, she doesn't look mentally capable herself of doing a good job. Everyone knows he's a congenital liar. He's a plagiarizer. He's also a narcissist who would do pretty much anything for a buck or a little prestige. And the way that he treated his own granddaughter in Arkansas, not recognizing this innocent girl for over 4 years, pretty repulsive and pretty disgusting. She's an innocent young girl.
Yeah, sure is.
No birthday cards, no invites to the White House. And by the way, even the family dog that bit Secret Service agents got a personalized ornament on the Joe Biden Christmas tree before this little girl did. Joe Biden, the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, they have been a national disgrace. Every policy they implement is creating more pain for the American people. It's no wonder Joe completed the DOJ's transformation into an arm of the Democratic Party. He knew he'd need that. He doesn't have any character or ethics and probably couldn't even recite a single line from our Constitution. And the media mob, they know that too, and they've been ignoring it up till now. But that is now beginning to change.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, they don't have a choice anymore. Joe Biden's just so far gone. He's so corrupt. I think Hannity makes a good point there, right? He's like, about the poll. They saw this poll, the latest CNN poll, and they're like, what? Even people from CNN, people that are going to answer a CNN poll, they've turned on Biden. Okay. We gotta go onto their side because they're going to abandon us next. The small audience we have left, they don't even like Joe Biden. Okay, we gotta do something about this and start covering this stuff. And it's probably just going to get worse for him. Like I was saying earlier, when you got New York Times and just all the mainstream publications, everything, when they start covering all this, it's going to be interesting. I did not think they were going to actually try to replace Joe Biden for the nominee. But it's still a while away from the election. Maybe they will. Maybe Gavin Newsom will be in there. He's not going to beat Trump either, though. That's the thing, is who do the Republicans have? Who do the Democrats have? The Republicans, they have like a few people that could jump in there. Maybe DeSantis still. Maybe Vivek Ramaswamy. Who would the Democrats even want? Do the Democrats even like Gavin Newsom? Like, people fled California because of his terrible policies during the pandemic. So those people? It's crazy. He beat Larry Elder. I was surprised, but they recalled him. So in California, they have a problem with him. And let's say it's not him. Bernie Sanders, maybe, but he also is old. So I don't know, and I haven't heard any hype about Bernie Sanders in a while. So I don't. Would he be the nominee? They don't really have anybody aside from Biden that would actually be Kamala. Oh no, they wouldn't want her. So yeah, what are they gonna do? So if Biden gets just slammed, he's probably gonna be the nominee because he's so corrupt and everything. He's not gonna step down willingly. So yeah, I don't think Kamala Harris would either. So it's like, oh, what did we do? This backfired. We got this guy in here, and now we can't get him out. And everyone hates him. So now the Republican is just going to win by default. Or a third party, I suppose. But yeah, it's still over a year from the election, and things are already heating up like crazy, and things are just changing and swinging in different directions. It's going to be a pretty fun election season. I'll tell you that. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Hurricane Lee becomes Category 5 storm. Here's a clip.
Hurricane making its way through the Atlantic. Hurricane Lee became a dangerous Category 5 overnight. Ginger starts us off. Good morning, Ginger.
George, Lee joins rare company. Only 6 hurricanes since the satellite era began have rapidly intensified as fast or faster than Lee. It put on 85 miles per hour in just the last 24 hours. So this
thing looks
indeed
terrifying.
a really intense hurricane that will, with confidence now, pass just north of the northern Leeward Islands as we go through the weekend. It slows down significantly, and that's why we still
look at the size of it
9-10
compared
days
to the Bahamas.
to talk about how it impacts, if at all, the United States
or
on
Puerto
the East
Rico.
Coast. What it's doing now is rapidly intensifying because of that. 3 to 4 degrees warmer than average. It will eventually get into some of the wake of what was Franklin and Idalia, kind of mixed up the water and cooled it down a little, but it's still plenty to sustain a really strong hurricane. And then the spaghetti models take it between that high pressure system and a trough, and it's going to depend on how slow it moves and how quickly it gets up there. What I can promise you, George, is starting Sunday, big rip currents, high surf all along the East Coast.
It is coming. Okay, thanks very much, Ginger.
Very scary. We don't know where it's going to hit or anything yet, but yeah, if you're in those areas, yeah, big surf, yeah, stay out of, probably away from the beaches. Don't go out on your boat, right? Yeah, hopefully it calms down some with the colder water, but I don't even know. Is it going to still be a Category 5? That thing's insane. It's just record breaking. It's the only 6 have been stronger than this, and how fast it intensified. Yeah, I just covered this yesterday, and I was saying that I'm reading that it's going to become a Category 5, and then I wake up today, bam, it's a Category 5. It's like, what? It's already here? Yeah, it's scary. And El Nino and stuff, and like I said in the video yesterday, the people are expecting next year to even be worse with the heat and how crazy hurricanes are and just weather in general, globally. So it's scary. I guess we'll see what happens. But let's move on to the next story. InfoWars employee arrested just for commenting on January 6th. Here's a clip.
I actually really like this article. It says Alex Jones claims InfoWars host Owen Schroyer was charged for free speech. That's it. They don't insult Alex Jones. They don't write anything. They literally just post a quote and a video of Alex Jones, which I will play a bit for you here right now. I think.
Now, this deals with Owen and this deals with the rest of the January 6 people where their lawyers are like, we don't want you to antagonize the system. We don't want you to sit there and do a bunch of stuff. Let us try to not get them in prison. I'm like, well, I want to defend them. I want to talk about it. Well, it's up to them if they want help or not. And Owen's a smart cookie, but they're trying to put Owen in jail, in prison. They filed last night. He's sentenced next week. Goes to D.C. And I didn't cover it, but the Gateway Pundit did. Breaking, D.C. prosecutors seek 120 days in prison for Owen Schroyer for speaking out against stolen election 2020. Speech now a crime. Now that's not just the Gateway Pundit's headline. I have, overhead shot please, right here, the charging document the feds put forward. Here it is.
We actually have that as well. And so in the charging document, I'm not going to read through the whole thing. They basically say, before January 6th, on January 6th, and after January 6th, Owen Schroyer had said things that incited people. And for that, they are seeking this sentence. The criminal charge against him is not for speech. It's for being on the Capitol grounds. But they're arguing that he is the reason people stormed the Capitol. They highlight this. Be a part of history. Fight for Trump. And it shows people outside the Capitol, Alex Jones and Owen with bullhorns. And if you scroll down, I'll jump down to right before they get to their recommendations. They go on to mention, let's see, I want to try and find the specific portion. May. They go on to mention after the fact, August. So this is for his speech that they are seeking to put him in jail. When I said that the next people they'd come for would be pundits, I didn't mean like outright it would be Owen Schroyer or anything like that. There are people who are not in the Capitol, who are not on the Capitol grounds, who I am referring to. And there are people who are not even in D.C. who I am referring to. I even said like prominent cable personalities who were in communications with Trump legal's team who pushed the narrative, prominent personalities, many of whom got sued. They're going to come after them next. But Owen Schroyer is in between.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
He not only was there on the ground, he didn't go in the building, but he was also someone that they're seeking a prison sentence for over speech he made after the fact.
I blame Obama.
Yeah, why is that?
Because the precedent for going after journalists was set with Snowden
That is fair.
and with Assange, and then the Obama administration went after James Rosen. So the idea that this is the first time, no, this is something that's been in motion for a long time. And there's a lot of people,
That's a fair point.
People around this table and other pundits and stuff that have been vocal about how it's a bad thing that, you know, Snowden hasn't been pardoned and Assange hasn't been pardoned. And it's a bad thing that Rosen went to jail. And the Democrats didn't.
Rosen actually went to jail?
Or no, I'm sorry, that they
went after him. We've had him on the show, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was here. And he was talking about, you know, they wiretapped him and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, the fact that we have allowed the government to get away with it is why it continues. Now, the situation we're in right here,
definitely.
If this does happen and he goes to jail for speech, it's only going to be worse. There is not going to be someone that says, okay, that's enough. BS. They're going to be like, all right, that worked. The American people allowed it. This is a new power we have, and we can do this. So
it's like the frogs in the boiling pot. They just amp it up, and it's just gonna keep getting worse unless something happens to stop it.
Let's go back in time. Let's go back to when the Biden administration targeted James Rosen, a journalist, tried to put him in jail. When Obama charged whistleblowers and journalists under the Espionage Act more than any other president combined, than all the other presidents combined.
Yeah.
Imagine going back then when we were concerned about this and telling people in 10 years, they're going to put a guy in jail because he was on the Capitol grounds bullhorning. And then after the fact, he said, He said stuff like, to a certain degree, we should be proud of what we did that day. He said something like, he maintains the election was stolen. One of the reasons they want him in jail is because they said, even after all of this, he still maintains the election was stolen. As if he has to publicly change his opinion.
Man.
Yeah, this is
wow.
This is Soviet level. This is Cultural Revolution level. Communist authoritarianism. Welcome to the future.
And it happens
Dystopian.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly. It goes from you're free to you're not free. I mean, look, we're discussing 10 years.
Not even, I mean, and think about the past few
wild.
years. Yeah. Think about where we were 6-7 years ago, and it's laughable to me that there are people who are like, you're overreacting, or you're it's exaggerating, or it's shock content. I'm like, dude.
Okay, you don't.
I think the issue is that
just look at the stories.
Everybody is standing in the middle of the forest, and when you tell them, dude, you are in the middle of the forest, like, what do you mean? It's just a can full of trees. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm like, bro, you can't tell where all the other trees are because you're standing in the middle of all of them.
Yeah, you got to look at 9/11. I mean, 9/11 is like, when you see those buildings fall in free fall, most people can understand it when they see the sign. When they see.
Okay, hold on. Nah, like
you want to talk about
you just
the
jumped
slow boil
way too far.
That's the beginning of this totalitarian seizure, man.
And I can respect that, but you got to slow down a little bit.
The way that the government,
you got to talk about. Okay, so. We ended up in this position with the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act.
Like 2010 or something.
2000, I think that was 12, which gave the which signed into law the indefinite detention provision, which is an offshoot of what is effectively the Bush era expansion of authoritarianism, anti-terror policies, and the expansion of the creation of DHS, which emerges out of the Patriot Act, which starts after 9/11.
I watched it happen in real time too. It was crazy, and like
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we got to explain to people how we get from point A to point B.
Right. This would set like a precedent for that to be acceptable if they were to pull that off.
And now it is. Now we're here. When we talked in 2012 about the indefinite detention provision that Obama signed into law, the NDAA provision that says they could snatch you up in the middle of the night without charge or trial, hold you on a military vessel 11 miles off the coast of this country and rendition you. We were like, that's scary. And the response from everybody is, oh, you're nuts. That's never going to happen. Shut your mouths.
Why do they have the ability?
Now we're at the point where they're arresting journalists. They've been targeting journalists. That's the Obama era. Around the same time, going after Rosen. Julian Assange. That's an informal assassination as far as I'm concerned. Owen Schroyer said bombastic things outside the Capitol. And for that, they want to go to prison. This is the next grain of sand. They're going after lawyers. They're going after political
Homeless people say bombastic stuff all the time.
It's not just Trump. They removed Coy Griffin in New Mexico from the ballot. This is well beyond the point. We are potentially a couple years away from the actual implementation of an indefinite detention act.
The Trump, and I hate the fact that this is so prescient now, but Trump said, they're not coming after you, or they're not coming after me. They're coming after you. I'm just in the way. And I hate the fact that it looks like that's the case. The idea that it's just Trump is something that I've been pushing back against with Democrats, specifically shitlibs, for a long time, because they think, oh, well, Donald Trump is different. Donald Trump is different. It's like, the thing that's different is the behavior of the Democrats and the left. The influence of authoritarianism in the United States on the left is undeniable. And the fact that people have been ignoring it or just saying, no, it's not true, likely because they don't believe it's true, because they have normal jobs,
they don't
normal lives.
do research,
they're not in this stuff like people that do this stuff all the time. But the fact of the matter is, the federal government has never been more authoritarian. They're throwing people in jail in the way that they did, like during the Civil War and in the 20s, or no, was it Wilson that througw people in jail? FDR threw people in jail, but it's back to the old, authoritarian government, and that's not acceptable. We've said this a bunch. I don't see the off ramp.
It's not even wartime either.
Is accepted.
Right now. They're still doing
what's going to be next, because it's not going to be, oh, we're going to chill out. It would take someone in the Democrat Party in power standing up and saying, we can't do this. And there is no one that even wants to. They're all enjoying it.
I think it's going to come from us, to be honest.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. But you know what? Nobody's coming to save you. And you see this everywhere where authoritarianism just takes hold. Everybody's like, well, we just need a savior. And that's why you get that charismatic leader that comes in and destroys the country. And maybe that
Obama.
charismatic leader that we need to save us is Trump, but I doubt it.
No, I think
he was in power before, and he did nothing for Julian Assange. He did nothing for Edward Snowden. He did nothing for Ross Ulbricht. He's done nothing to change the situation that we're in now. He had the opportunity. 4 years was plenty.
Yeah, but there's nobody else.
There is nobody else. I agree with you.
Right.
There's nobody else. And
So
at this point, it's Trump or nobody. But we can't expect that Trump is going to come save us.
Yeah,
we have to
I agree.
understand that it's going to come from us, and it's going to come from Americans. Number one, understanding history, understanding where this is going, and then doing something about it, because they can't control us if we don't allow them to.
You were talking earlier about Venezuela. Can you go ahead and relate some of the things that you were telling us about? Because this is important now, because this is something that it's possible that we're going to have to worry about. We have got there are people that and I really do want you to, but I want to say this first. People that deny that there's a problem on the left, they need to go to urban areas and talk to the political activists, the people that are on the ground working with the communities. Talk to them. You go to Brooklyn, there's DSA everywhere, which is the Democratic Socialists of America, full of commies, full of communists, and they're at the point where they'll tell you about it. So if you don't mind, go ahead and
somehow it's okay to be a communist in this country. Like, you would never call yourself.
Not according to me.
Well, let's start from the beginning. It wasn't that long ago. People don't realize this, that Venezuela was a wealthy capitalist nation.
Absolutely. So I wasn't born in Venezuela because my mom hightailed it back to
I think they're going to get to this, but I haven't seen this clip yet. But yeah, like the oil, because in the 70s, it was super wealthy. And then socialism took over. Like, hey, we got enough money, as they do here. We got enough money now. We can, some politician comes in, we can go distribute it to everybody. And then they voted in, and now you see what happens.
The US
People start saying how bad it is, and they're not actually getting what they wanted. And then they try to get the politicians out of there and go back to where they were. And the politicians are like, no. We're staying here. You have to listen to us. We'll make it better. It'll just take a long time. And they're like, no, why? Why isn't it getting better? It's just trust us. And if you don't, it doesn't matter, because we're staying in charge.
Have me.
Scary.
But I was taken to Venezuela when I was 9 days old, and I lived there until back and forth between the U.S. until I was 15. So, however, like, my age old is how long this has been going on. Not even, much less. I watched communism, socialism enter into Venezuela. Venezuela was one of the most prosperous nations in Latin America. Before Venezuela, it was Cuba, which was, of course, destroyed by the same ideology. And there's no way to talk about Venezuela without talking about Cuba, because Fidel Castro, the dictator of Cuba, trained Hugo Chavez in Cuba on how to do this. I think people just assume that it's easy to come into power and take over. He did it in the very similar ways to Castro. So yeah, it starts very similarly, and it's this class warfare. It starts with you're poor because that guy over there has your money. That guy over there has your jobs and your opportunities, and you're poor because of them. So you see the class warfare, and that's really where it started dawning on me here in the U.S.
Poor.
Like, oh wait, I've seen this before.
Yeah, and then people are poor, and obviously if they're poor, they probably are as intelligent as the other people, so they just go in and believe them. They're not like, oh no, I can just go build a business and gain wealth for for myself. They're like, no, that guy took my money. You're right, and then they just go along with it. It's just crazy human behavior.
It's that, and then authoritarianisms come in, and of course you can't. Your guns is the first thing they take. Unfortunately, here in the U.S., we have started to lose a little bit of our gun freedoms, and I understand that that's scary for some people. But
I disagree on that one. It's actually not true.
What?
Gun rights have expanded rapidly and exponentially over the past 2 decades in ways that this country it's been good. Right, so DC versus Heller, the right for individuals to keep and bear arms outside of their home was 2008. If you look at the issuance of gun permits, there was not a single state that would allow you to have a gun for the most part back in the 80s. It was actually difficult to have guns. Now, we did have a different culture where people had rifles and there was gun clubs in schools. But in the past 20 years, the expansion of individual liberties and gun rights has been exponential to the point where now I think half the country is constitutional carry. Or I'm sorry, it's probably safer to say open carry in more than half the country, which did not exist 20, 30 years ago. Thanks for watching this clip
Very
from the
interesting.
Timcast.
Yeah, all this was interesting conversation. But yeah, we'll see where it goes with this journalist Owen Schroyer getting potential prison time. It's insane just for saying something by the Capitol. Homeless people scream stuff all the time. They don't get arrested for it, you know. But then this guy's, it was different because you incited and stuff. It's like, it's just a mess. They're just weaponizing the government as they have been. And sadly, I don't see it getting better before it gets worse, right? So we'll just see what happens. Especially we're still a whole year away from the election. So who knows what's going to happen. Like Tim was just saying, he's talking about like even more people not even on the Capitol grounds. I'm going after them. And I could definitely see that. Scary times. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Inside a secret government bunker for seized fentanyl. I thought this was really interesting. Here's a clip.
The CDC says fentanyl and other synthetic opioids are the most common drugs involved in overdose deaths here in the U.S. The DEA has seized more than 55 million fentanyl-laced pills and over 9,000 pounds of fentanyl powder.
That is wild.
265 million deadly doses. Nicole Skanga
Wow.
has given a rare up-close look at the fight against these drugs.
An unmarked building hidden inside a vault and locked behind security gates. The spoils of the war against drugs.
The jugs are right here with the fentanyl.
Chief among the stacks, fentanyl and its so-called precursors, the chemicals used to make the deadly drug.
We're at a secret location inside a U.S. government bunker. All we can tell you is that we're in California. Beside me, nearly 8,500 pounds of fentanyl and its chemical precursors, soon to be destroyed.
But before the fentanyl is destroyed,
And that's just one
officers
facility.
have to find it, scouring shipments taken off cargo flights at Los Angeles International Airport. Many packages originating from China.
This literally is ground zero for our fight against fentanyl precursors.
CBP Acting Commissioner Troy Miller oversees Operation Artemis, the U.S. counter-narcotics mission that intercepted more than 8,000 pounds of chemical precursors in the last 3 months.
This is an emergency. It's an opioid epidemic where we need to go after the transnational criminal organizations.
Synthetic opioids like fentanyl kill more than 70,000 people in the U.S. annually.
She was a bright little girl.
Like 15-year-old Melanie Ramos, found lifeless in her L.A. high school bathroom last year. Her aunt calls fentanyl the devil's pill.
It's poisonous.
It's so easy to overdose on it.
It's playing roulette with your life.
Another troubling trend, U.S. officials have seized hundreds of pill presses this summer alone, a sign that drug gangs are making pills on U.S. soil.
Yeah, it's terrible. They'll say it's like Xanax or something, and then people will take it. I've seen a ton of stories in the last couple of years of kids doing this. They'll be like, hey, it's a Xanax or whatever, you know, take it to sleep. Their friend will give it to them. It has a bunch of fentanyl on it, and they die. It's absolutely awful.
Press pills in an apartment complex, and you can press thousands of pills.
And we're seeing that in the U.S. now.
We're seeing it in the U.S.
And
Why
CBS
they would
News
put
Homeland
fentanyl on
Security
it, I
and
have no
Justice
idea.
Reporter Nicole Skanga joins us now from
Kills
Los
your customers.
Angeles. So Nicole, we saw some of it in your piece. What more can you tell us about Operation Artemis?
Yeah, Elaine, good to be with you. Operation Artemis, a massive U.S. government counter-narcotics mission that began on June 5th, along with those precursors we spoke about, over 200 pounds of fentanyl powder and pills that were seized by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. And just to give you a sense, by DEA estimates, that amount of fentanyl could kill up to 45 million people. 90% of fentanyl pills and powder right now comes smuggled through the U.S.-Mexico border. border, smuggled into the United States. But what officials are most concerned about here at U.S. transit hubs like LAX are those chemical precursors, the building blocks to fentanyl. And in 2022, CBP having to sort through millions of packages to ensure that there were no narcotics or precursors of narcotics entering the U.S. In fact, 182 million air shipments. They were trying to rattle the supply chain of fentanyl here. Pill presses are also a massive problem for U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Over 120 of those seized just in the last 3 months right here at LAX.
Well, you spoke exclusively with Customs and Border Protection Acting Commissioner Troy Miller. What did they say about what resources his agency needs to curb the flow of fentanyl?
Yeah. Acting Commissioner Troy Miller said he does need some more assets. He mentioned intel research specialists, canines who are specifically trained to spot fentanyl, its precursors, also a new drug on the streets, psilocybin, more CBP officials overall. He also pointed to harnessing artificial intelligence to help sort through all of the cargo, all of the packages that U.S.
They want to go through
Commerce
every
gets.
one. That's
Also,
so
this was his
wild.
big point. He needs updated U.S. trade law. Believe it or not, U.S. trade law has not been updated or changed in a meaningful way since the acting commissioner first joined the agency 30 years ago. And right now, not all packages originating from China, let alone other countries, are being electronically tracked. So I asked the commissioner, do you have the information you need to stop all of these chemical precursors from coming into the country? And he told me flat out no, hoping that that legislation moves in Congress on Capitol Hill in the coming weeks and months.
It's an interesting point, something I think we've not really heard a lot about. But Nicole, we saw you also visited that secret facility where officials screen for small packages of fentanyl and its precursors. What did officials there tell you?
Yeah, we visited an international mail facility a few miles away from here, and we were surprised to see how small some of the packages were containing fentanyl, its precursors, and other drugs. Some as small as just your average cell phone containing fentanyl powder and some of those precursors. A really dangerous
They do everything
working
to slip it
environment,
in.
frankly, for U.S. Customs and Border Patrol officials, as well as U.S. Postal officers who were there on the scene, many of them having to use gloves, goggles, masks, even hazmat suits to handle some of these narcotics.
You
I'll
can
give you
overdose
one
on fentanyl
example
so
now.
easily.
I met an Officer Chavez, on the scene who carries Narcan with him at all times in case there is any sort of fentanyl exposure. And at that facility, they actually have a policy in place that there needs to be at least one EMT, one medic on the scene at all times in case there is an exposure to fentanyl or one of its dangerous precursors.
Wow, really eye-opening to hear those details. Nicole Skenga reporting. Nicole, thank you.
Yeah, very, very interesting. There's so much coming in. They don't really talk about the southern border, but the southern border, also a ton of fentanyl comes through there. So even if we're doing everything that guy was talking about in the video, right? It's like, what about the southern border? And then that's not closed off. So it's a huge issue. And I don't think the Biden administration is doing anything to try to resolve this or anything. His administration is trying to make more than 2 drinks of alcohol a week illegal. That's what he's concerned with. Yeah, how about you clean this type of stuff up? And like I said earlier, what's really awful is people will just take it by accident. It's not even like fentanyl. Does anyone? I don't know of very many people that just go and like, hey, I'm going to eat some fentanyl. I like it. No, it's like everybody. They go and press it into pills. The criminals, they'll go get one of these pill pressers, press it into pills, and then you just think it's some other thing. You know, you get it from a friend. Okay, I'm going to take one of these things, and then bam. That's a kind of an argument for legalizing or opening up some of this, but I can understand why people don't want people to get addicted to it and everything. But if you could just go get 100% legal Xanax instead of getting it from a friend, you know, so it's just like I get both sides of the argument, but how do you get around it? Because people are going to take those on the streets no matter what, and you don't want them to have fentanyl in them because, yeah, that's that's really scary. Cocaine's the same way. Mac Miller died from that, right? He was doing cocaine, had fentanyl in it. Why you'd put fentanyl in it and kill your customer, I don't know what's wrong with these people. Maybe they're just stupid and they're like, okay, it'll be addicted and they'll like the feeling of it, but it's so easy to overdose on it. So yeah, it's crazy. Just be careful. Now there's like strips and stuff. People will get to test pills and cocaine and stuff. Very, very interesting time, like with all this, because fentanyl is like fairly recent, right? They use it, I think, for anesthesiologists use it, but as a street drug, it's like, last decade, and now it just seems like it's just everywhere. And yet China, I think, is just pushing it on purpose. They want this, Notice how much is coming to China. If I understand, Chinese people go to Mexico and make it there, and then ship it across the border. It's crazy. Got to really secure the border. That is for sure. But with that, let's move on to the next story. Trump or death banner flies at Yankee game. This one's crazy. Here's a clip.
Yeah, it looks like Trump's going to win. As of right now, it looks like Donald Trump will win re-election in 2024, or he will win an election for his second term because he's not president right now. Here's the story. The big lead's got it. Giant Trump or death flag makes appearance at Yankee Stadium during God Bless America. Wow. That's a bold statement, but it shows the sentiment of many people who are supporting Donald Trump. Why? Well, many on the left will say it's a cult. And for some, it kind of is.
Projection.
Donald Trump is definitely has his cult of personality, but it's not the majority.
Yeah,
I talked to some of the most diehard Trump supporters, and it's really, in a lot of ways, not even about Trump. Trump's been booed before at his own rallies. His supporters aren't big fans of big pharma and the vaccine.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump just looks like a human Molotov cocktail. That's about it. CNN right now is freaking out. Biden's unpopularity could give Trump his shot at reclaiming power. Yeah, give him his shot. It's basically happening. Here's a story from the big lead. The New York Yankees hosted the Detroit Tigers in the Bronx last night, and everything was perfectly normal as two teams who will not be playing October baseball near the end of their obligations until the traditional signing of God Bless America in the 7th inning, when Donald Trump supporters unfurled an enormous flag reading Trump or death from the mezzanine. And when we say enormous, we mean really enormous. There are bigger fish to fry in terms of the ramifications of all this, but it's worth mentioning that getting something like that into the stadium seems difficult. Seriously.
That is very true.
The poor Nathan's famous sign a few feet over was just sitting there all awkwardly wondering how it possibly found itself in the situation. Its one job is to remind people about hot dogs and how many a human can eat in 10 minutes. Something about this railing must make it the ideal display for pro-Trump signs. Back in 2021, two fans were ejected for hanging a Trump 1 banner from the same perch. That one got a lot more reaction, led to a scuffle with stadium security.
Wow.
And here we are, my friends. It's kind of a crazy story. It's got a little trend going on Twitter. And I think it shows you exactly where we're headed. You ready for some shocking information coming out of 538? Yeah, Trump won. I'm saying, like, as of right now. I'm not talking about 2020. Calm down. If the election happens now, Trump wins. Yeah, sorry, man. Take a look at this.
That's what everything is saying. Yep.
DeSantis loses to Joe Biden. Wow, that's shocking to me. This is from Premise, 538 polls, August 30th to September 5th. Biden versus DeSantis has Biden up 2 points.
Wow.
Biden versus Trump. Trump is up 6 points.
DeSantis is floundered.
In another poll, DeSantis is down 2, and Trump is up 5. Moving down to September 4th, morning consult, we have Biden beating both Trump and DeSantis. Unsurprising. Trump's not going to win every single poll.
Yeah, definitely
Echelon
not.
Insights, August 31st.
Crazy's winning any of them.
DeSantis loses to Biden. Trump beats Biden. That's
how many Trump supporters are going to answer a CNN poll or any poll? Most people on the right in general. I'm not going to answer a poll. Someone calls me. I'm like, hey, do you want to go and participate in this poll? I'm like, you're going to change stuff anyways or something. I'm like, I'm not wasting my time with this. But people on the left will gladly do it. So it's the fact that Trump's winning any polls is just insanity.
Crazy. And then CNN, polling all the different candidates of which I really don't care about. They say Chris Christie beats Biden. Ramaswamy does not. DeSantis ties. Tim Scott, Pence, Haley all beat Biden. And they have Nikki Haley beating Biden by 6 points. Oh, yeah. Yeah. If you want to blow up more kids, Nikki Haley's the candidate for you. Donald Trump wins by 1 point. I'll take Trump, who gave us the Abraham Accords and a timeline for getting out of the Middle East.
Yeah. How about
Here we
that?
go. August
Not more
30th,
war.
The Wall Street Journal, Trump beats Biden. August 29th, The Economist, Trump beats Biden. I love this one. University of California at Berkeley. Biden beats Trump by 20 points. Sorry, forgive me, University of California at Berkeley, if I think your poll is complete garbage. Because 20 points is insane.
It's Berkeley.
In
They
any
probably just
context, for any reason.
polled college kids at
My
Berkeley.
friends, what we're seeing now in the polls is Donald Trump wins. I don't think Trump lost any supporters. Now, there may be some churn and burn, but Trump has gained. So I think probably Trump is slightly up a little bit. You can see it in the approval ratings in the polls.
I think Trump kind of could have lost some supporters in a way for now, but after the primary, if he beats DeSantis, they're going to jump back on. Some people like Trump and DeSantis. They just like DeSantis better. But, hey, I mean, a lot of people are like that, but his campaign is just, I don't know. He's not doing a very good job at it, is he? So I think a lot of people are just jumping back on the Trump train. Not to mention all the indictments. People are throwing their support behind Trump.
What I mean to say is Trump may lose a supporter here and there, but probably unlikely. But he gains a couple here and there. I think the reality of what we're seeing is that Trump's base is standing firm and Biden is losing support. Nate Cohn on Twitter says, CNN SSRS shows Trump up 1. And the underlying story is much like the other polls. Biden hitting his targets among whites. Really? But leading 58 to 34 among non-white voters. As I wrote yesterday, he says it's basically a myth. The problem is that minorities, and black voters especially, almost always poll worse than they actually turn out. It's not true. Says, hopefully, helpful for all of your crosstab divers in the future. Among black voters, Democrat support is now below 80%. That's crazy. And Republican support is now upwards near 20. And don't get me wrong, I'm not entirely convinced we'll actually see those numbers. Polling is probably not completely accurate in that regard. But I do think it shows the trend is there.
Yeah, that's what I was about
CNN
to say. The trend.
The devastating verdict voters delivered to President Joe Biden in a new CNN poll is especially stark. Ahead of the most unprecedented election in modern times. 14 months before his fate is decided, Biden's unpopularity may be brewing the only possible conditions in which a disgraced and anti-democratic ex-president, who might be a convicted felon by Election Day, would be able to squeeze back power. It begs the question of how GOP frontrunner Donald Trump, whose administration was a 4-year cacophony of chaos, scandal, and fury, blah, blah, blah.
It's not
Shut
made up.
CNN.
It was not made
What's
up.
the question? How could he be locked in a statistical tie among registered voters with Biden after facing 91 criminal charges? It's because your narrative machine is broken. And
Yeah.
we know you're lying. Can I just point to
We've turned on
I am
you.
so tired of people saying begs the question. It doesn't mean that. Begs the question means basically is circular logic. But now it begs the question. I love this. What they're really saying it makes us wonder. You can just say that. It begs the question because people who don't know what the original meaning is think it's saying it is. They interpret the phrase begging the question as to mean it is humbly requesting that somebody ask how this could be possible. Humbly ask this question. Dude, you can just literally ask it. You can say, we wonder how it's possible. But anyway, I'm done being nitpicky. The chief rationale behind Biden's bid for a second term is
There's more problems with this article, Tim, and you know it than that. With all the scandal right in it. It's like all the scandals were made up. It's all stupid.
He is the best positioned Democrat to beat Trump again. He's not. But unless political conditions change significantly in the coming months, that narrative may be in doubt. If the president goes on to lose re-election to Trump or any other Republican, the warning signs contained in the CNN poll, which mirrors his troubles in other recent surveys, but goes far deeper on reasons for his malaise, will have foreshadowed the story of his downfall. The survey conducted by SSRS and released on Thursday paints a picture of a pessimistic and divided nation that is far from experiencing the return to normality that had been promised in 2020 by Biden.
Yeah,
the president
it's
the
gotten
country
worse.
finds neither inspiring nor worthy of confidence. You see Kamala Harris? She said that she's ready to take over should Joe Biden fall ill or
I covered that
incapacitated.
yesterday. You didn't see it.
Oh, man. Is that how they do it? I've talked about the possibility. The way you get Gavin Newsom in. Joe Biden goes to a rally in California, suffers a medical incident. Gavin Newsom runs out, saves the day. And that is how you swap people out. Here's another scenario. Joe Biden suffers a medical incident, and Kamala Harris assumes the role of acting president. Joe Biden is incapacitated and can't run again. Kamala Harris says
He's already there.
she does not want to run for president in this way, that she was a team with Joe Biden, and that, seeing Joe go out this way, she'll humbly stand aside to be there for Joe, but that she cannot, in good faith, run for president. Something like that could work. It's possible. And then Gavin Newsom steps up and says, you did the right thing. You helped this nation in a time of need. Thank you for everything you've done. A lot of people think that Kamala Harris will get a Supreme Court appointment or something like that. Maybe. There's talk of some retirements. We'll see how that goes. But I do think it is fair to say, with Biden failing in the polls, right now it's giving Trump supporters some hope. But they could swap him out, and that could change things. A large portion of Democrats, I think in the 60%, like 63% or 68%, say they can't vote for the guy. He's too old. So what do? Gavin Newsom. He's the only guy they got right now. I don't see Newsom winning. I can't see Newsom beating Donald Trump. Joe Biden was always a maybe because people hate Donald Trump, but Newsom is too plastic.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. There's a possibility, of course, that things play out this way, but I can only tell you right now.
People from California don't like him even. They recalled him and everything.
With the sentencing guidelines of Owen Schroyer for his speech, with the arrest of lawyers, they are not going to just let Trump win a regular old election. It'll get interesting. How it plays out, we don't know for sure, my friends, but with people dropping these banners, with the polls where we're currently at, they better do something dramatic if they want to try to win, because right now, it's Trump, baby. Right now. And that could change. So I hope everybody's paying attention. I hope you go knock on doors, you advocate as much as you can, and you vote. I'll leave it there. Next segment is up tonight.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, Trump, has been huge with sports fans for a while, though. The "Let's Go Brandon" chants, So, yeah, but it's even more proof. They just let him bring this in the building and everything. So they got this on there, and everyone wants to show their support for Trump. I agree with Tim. It's like with the polls and everything and just the policies of the left, I talk about it all the time, the policies of the left, and Gavin Newsom isn't going to be able to win. People ran from California, and he got recalled, and he's for open borders and stuff, and people are turning against that. If he goes on the debate stage and starts talking about how sanctuary cities, he's going to lose so many inner city people. They're just subscribe to my channel if you're not already, because I cover this stuff almost every day about how the inner cities are turning on all of these policies because of all the migrants. They're just overrunning everything. And then the Biden administration doesn't give any money to the city, so now all the cities have to go and spend all the money on that. So I don't see how Gavin Newsom can win with his policy position. Anyone on the left, they'll have to go do a whole 180 and be like, we got to, change how immigration works, which apparently it's not popular on the left, but they're probably just going to have to switch. But then if they switch, is that going to create division with other people? I mean, Nancy Pelosi switched. She used to think we needed a wall and everything, but now she doesn't want to approve the wall when she was Speaker of the House and everything because Donald Trump wanted it. Like, what happened? So, I don't know. Like I keep saying, it should be a very interesting 2024 season. But let's move on to the next story. Mother wins lawsuit against woke California school district trying to transition her daughter. Here's a clip.
Well, you all remember when we were kids. The first day of school was practically a national holiday for our parents. They couldn't wait to get us out of the house.
considering how the public educational system has deteriorated amid woke agendas, deplorable curriculums, or whatever else. Many parents rightfully dread the day when they have to send their kids back to the classroom now. Fortunately, parents are regaining their parental rights. A California mother was recently awarded a 6-figure settlement after successfully arguing that her then 11-year-old daughter was socially transitioned into a trans boy back in 2019. When the daughter was told by school officials, she was indoctrinated by school officials that she didn't know who she truly was inside. Right. What's even more outrageous, though, is that the child was allowed to use boys' bathrooms and male pronouns in class. All of this was hidden from the mother, who had no idea what was happening within the school walls. That I'd like to welcome in the mother, Jessica Conan, and alongside her daughter, Alicia, and the family's attorney, Eric Sell. All right, so, Alicia, I got to ask, do you feel like the teachers pushed this on you?
I feel like the school that I went to and the staff that were there definitely pushed it, because I was a girl, and now I am a girl, and they had no right to do what they did. And there's times where I don't even know why this happened. And during that time, I was very confused. And
the teachers are so mean.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, Jessica, you seem like a boy, so you're a boy.
I mean, obviously you sued, but like, if as a parent, I have 3 kids, I would flip out if I found out about this. How did you find out this was going down?
Well, I agree with you. I did flip out. I honestly did not know how to take a lot of it, but I found out through a school meeting. I was told that I needed to come over and we needed to talk about things. And the whole time in the meeting, it was never my daughter speaking to me, saying anything, any of these wishes. It was always, you know, the staff that was mentioning things and telling me how it was going to be, that this is now your son and this is his new name and you need to start referring to the pronouns and he will be entitled to use the men's restroom. And you know what, to be honest, I cried. I did not know how to take it. I was so angry and so emotional. And I remember looking over at Alicia and she was just crying. And she was like, it was like she was trying to speak, but they, you know, she couldn't even have her own voice.
I would have lost my mind. You have much more control than I do, because I would have been off the rails. Eric, throughout this, you know, you file the lawsuit, okay? You go to court. What is the school's argument saying? Oh, no, we're not guilty of anything. Like, how do they make that justification in any factor?
Look, schools across the country are making these same arguments, and it's particularly problematic in California. But these schools think that they're helping kids by keeping secrets from their parents. That's the bottom line here. They think that by providing a safe space for these kids to explore their gender identity,
it doesn't even seem like
to a new gender.
They don't even seem like keeping a secret for this girl anyway. It's probably a lot like this for a lot of kids. They probably are just like, we need to push them on this. So let alone keeping it a secret, they're just pushing it on them. It's disgusting.
Identity is somehow helping these kids when they're keeping the parents in the dark. And that's the complete opposite of what they should be doing. They should be fostering and facilitating these relationships with the parents and not keeping secrets.
Alicia, have you gotten any backlash at school since this lawsuit? Are people kind of saying, oh, you know, maybe we shouldn't have done that? Or are they doubling down on it?
I've gotten nothing but positive support from my peers and the current school that I go to.
It's better with a mom like that.
But everyone's just been completely supportive, and they've been really wanting what's best for me.
Yeah. Well, Mom, you are truly a titan in this one. What was it like going through this legal battle, and when you come out the other side, have the school, has anybody apologized to you, or have they just kind of buried their head in the sand, paid the money, and just forced to go along with what the court said?
Well, initially starting the lawsuit, you know, of course it's emotional and it's traumatic and we have to relive, you know, this full story in detail. And it took us a while to get there, but through that time, we were strengthened together and we just came together and we were able to tackle this. We knew that we wanted to fight this. I have not gotten any apology. Alicia has not gotten any type of apology. I'm sure that we will never get an apology, but I do know that, you know, they'll think twice. Right. Schools will think twice because this is not okay for our kids, you know. Let's go take back these schools. You guys, those are our children, and we have voices.
Eric, I got about 15 seconds left. Where do people go who might be having a similar problem if they want to get in contact with you or someone who can help?
Well, if you're having a similar problem as Jessica had, go to our website, libertycenter.org, and you can support our work there, get in touch with us there. But also, I encourage you to parents to speak to your kids, speak to your kids' schools, go to your school board meetings, go to your state legislature, and make sure that schools are not allowed to keep these secrets from parents.
Boom. Jessica, Alicia, Eric, appreciate you coming on. Congratulations.
Very interesting. Yeah, this is awesome. It's like the tide is turning the other way. You know, that's it. It's awesome. All this stuff that's gotten into the schools and the whole industry of doing all this stuff to kids. People are starting to fight back. They're starting to go to school board meetings. They're filing lawsuits. They're pushing back on this. Because these indoctrinated teachers, they just want to push this because that's what they think is right or something. I don't really understand. But a lot of these people, they're just woke teachers. So they're just like, oh, we're just going to push it on them because that's what they naturally do, because that's how they lean politically, whether the kid wants to or not. And then keeping it a secret from the parents on top of that, it's outrageous. So like I was saying earlier, it's like they weren't even caring about keeping a secret from them. Oh, they were, but they were also pushing the kid at the same time. It's like, wow. It's just, it's insane. This is, it's crazy because I always want to say, get your kids out of public schools. I always say that, but it's complicated. But homeschooling now, all the homeschooling programs and stuff, after a kid hits a certain age, they can probably learn on their own with some type of online homeschooling. I mean, you got stuff like Brilliant and stuff that adults are always using, and all these new services like Nebula and CuriosityStream that you can teach them a lot of stuff. And you could probably go on forums and stuff. They could type in there, school forums. Probably don't want your kids just going on random forums. But you see my point, where they could talk to other kids and stuff like that. I'm sure there's services like that. I don't have kids, so I'm not 100% sure on exactly which programs those would be or anything. But find a different program. Find, what do they call it? They're like small neighborhood schools. I forgot what the terminology is for it, but you get someone like that, a stay-at-home mom, maybe she can teach the kids, And again, most of the stuff that you did, it would just be questions that the kids would have, because they could just learn most of it online, and then they can just chill with each other and learn stuff at the smaller school or charter schools. Push for those. I think there's there's a lot of options. I know it's hard, but that's your kids. It's just like this. If you send them to certain public schools like this is what happens. Even private schools. Elon Musk just came out and was saying his the private school in LA that his daughter goes to turned into a full-blown communist, and now she won't even talk to him. Schools are scary, man. If you just have this authority figures over them 7 or 5 days a week, almost the entire year, this is what happens. And then their friends get indoctrinated by this stuff, and then they push it on to the other people. And if you speak out, oh no, you're weird. So the whole system is just, I don't like it. People are like, well, if you don't send your kids to school, they're going to go socializing. Like, there's not a million programs for kids, like sports or any number of things outside of schools. But, you can have all that, but then the socializing that they do get at schools, it seems like a lot of it is negative. There's bullying, and then there's these indoctrinations from these teachers. I've said before, they're like public prisons in a way, because you don't know who your kid's going to school with. Every time I see a bullying story, I think that this person's that's bullying your kid, their parents could both be in prison, and they just live with their grandparents, and then they're just around your kid for some reason. Like, imagine if you were in that situation. You're probably, I guess it depends where you work, but your job's going to vet the person, so they're going to be pretty safe. You're not going to, be friends with those type of people, most likely. If you're, if you're not like into crime and stuff, you're not going to be friends with those people. So how would they get in your lives? But with kids, they're just forced into their lives. They'll just be sitting behind them at a desk, and they have no choice. So I don't know. Schools to me are just a giant mess. Charter schools are better. Private schools are better. But homeschooling, I think, is the best. Or like small neighborhood schools, like I was saying. Just the whole education system really needs a whole overhaul. And I'm hoping the internet can really help do that and people being more informed. But with that, let's move on to the next and final story for the day. Where's my notes? Here we go. Liberty Safe Company slammed for giving backdoor access to FBI in January 6 case. Here's a clip.
We had this from timcast.com. Liberty Safe cites company protocol on decision to provide FBI with access code. Let me slow down. This is about the January 6 cases, for those that aren't familiar. A guy was arrested. He had a Liberty Safe, a gun safe. Liberty was contacted by the FBI, who said, we have a warrant for his premises, so they gave the code to the safe to the FBI. Now, there's a lot of questions that arise from this. How did they have the code to the safe in the first place? Easy. It appears that Liberty has publicly admitted, as a safe company, they have a back door to all of your safes. This means if you own a Liberty safe for your guns,
how is this
you
real?
are compromised. Period. This is not political. This is not, I don't like the company because they betrayed a guy or whatever. Look, I'll tell you this right now. If a company receives a court order to hand over information, I fully expect you to do it. We are a nation of due process and laws. And if a judge signs off on a legitimate warrant or court order saying, you're going to turn this information over, we expect it to happen. When we subpoena the DOJ or whatever, when the Republicans do, in Congress, and they don't do it, we get mad about it. If a court order is given down, we respect it. Now, there's a bunch of questions here. Liberty apparently didn't get a court order. They were shown a warrant for someone else's house and then said, sure, we'll give you the code anyway. That's got a lot of people pissed off. But more importantly,
you need a separate
outside
word
of all of the politics,
for safes.
If you purchased a Liberty safe, understand that at any point, for any reason, legal or illegal, someone else has access to your safe and could steal everything you own. And I'll give you a simple scenario. Liberty has a backdoor baked into your safe. That means someone has access to that code. I assume it's likely based on an algorithm pertaining to the serial number of your safe. This is typically how companies generate unique passcodes and backdoors. I don't know that this is exactly how they do it, but we do know they have the code, which means a rogue employee could see an order comes in for a high-end safe worth thousands of dollars, which can hold 50 grand in guns and other equipment, or who knows what, gold. And then tells one of their buddies, hey, here's the address, here's the safe model, and here's the backdoor code. They wait 6 months, monitor your home because they know your address because the guy's got it. Now, I'm not saying Liberty employees are compromised. I'm just saying, why would you risk it?
Yeah,
More
why would you
importantly,
build this in?
Anyone
Makes no
could
sense.
steal the information from Liberty, and now they can break into your safe.
It's a safe. Imagine buying like an encrypted hard drive to put your data in, and then actually we have a backdoor code to it. It's like that completely defeats the purpose of it being encrypted. That's completely defeats the purpose of having a safe. It's like, this is crazy. They would even think this was a good idea ever. What a terrible company.
This is the craziest thing to come out in terms of one of the craziest stories so far. Liberty Safe issued a statement saying that it's their policy to give access codes to law enforcement if a warrant grants them access to a property. What that means is a court order was not issued to the gun safe manufacturer. They just showed them that they have a warrant for the property. Liberty Safe could have said, when a judge instructs us to hand over the information, we'll do it, but we can't until then.
You
And even if they do, they can say, our lawyer will appeal. This is absolutely insane to find out. This is resulting in a major backlash. I don't know how big Liberty is, but I just want to stress to you guys, if you own a Liberty Safe, you are compromised.
Yeah.
Does the same thing hold true for home alarm systems?
Look, typically, when it comes to, the answer is yes. When it comes to security, we don't expect them to install backdoor access to our systems that we buy. Right? So let me show you this. I have another tweet people are already pointing out. This is Securite Gun Storage. They responded saying, we firmly believe in our customers' right and freedom to control their personal property. Recently, Securite was made aware of and asked to comment on the situation involving the FBI and a well-known safe manufacturer. The FBI requested the access code to the safe of an individual for whom they have a warrant to search their property. The company protocol is to provide these access codes to law enforcement if a warrant grants them access to the property. It is Securite's belief and protocol that the protection of personal property and the Second Amendment rights of American citizens are paramount, Our full line of fast access modular safes are not built with any override systems, giving our customers full control.
Naturally.
The freedom and liberty to possess firearms is the right of every American citizen. Secure It will always put those same rights of our current and future customers first. That is to say, based on the information before us, if you have a Liberty safe, you don't know who has the backdoor code. That means more than just you can go into your safe. Maybe you've got your dad's watch, your grandmother's necklace, or maybe you've got a $20,000 brand new, beautiful Barrett of some sort with tons of ammo, and it's yours and it's expensive and you don't want it stolen. Why would you go with the safe company that runs a backdoor? The interesting thing is,
why would you ever?
I'm not seeing,
no matter what you
in the
have.
leftist media, direct attacks and insults like you normally expect from a story like this. Why? The left has consistently complained about companies creating backdoor access to encryption. So it's going to be very difficult for them to come out and be like, haha, gun nuts are losing their, yeah, we actually don't like that idea either, especially many of these leftists who are pro-gun.
Yeah.
So if you have a Secure It safe and the feds or anyone goes to them, they're going to say, look, we don't have access. That is a private safe owned by somebody. You got to figure it out for yourself, man. I have no idea. Liberty's like, don't worry, we installed backdoor access to all of our safes and we'll give it to you if you ask.
It's wild.
Right. I mean, they could have some mad employee to sell the backdoor access to someone. You never know. The fact that they even got that is ridiculous.
Apple didn't turn over information back in 2013, right?
Yep.
I imagine all of them would now.
This is really, really crazy too. If you look at,
I think Apple did turn over some information.
Well, there was a big story where the feds demanded Apple open a phone, and they were like, no way.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. That's what I was saying.
California.
Leftists are very, very angry about backdoor access because, they do creepy stuff. They have activist servers. They don't want the feds seizing. They don't want. So Apple's probably thinking like, if word gets out that we give the feds access to your device, we're going to lose a lot of money in market share. So just don't do it unless you absolutely
That is part of why I switched to Apple.
Good luck, Liberty Safe, I guess.
I don't know if it, like that guy's just saying, I don't know if it matters now. But I had an Android back in 2013 when this happened. And when it came time to switch, I'm like, well, Apple seems better than Google at this point. That was in 2018. I was getting a new phone. I was just like, well, I'm going to go with the iPhone because Apple might do this now, but Google will for sure. And Apple has had a better track record. So if they would have gave it up, I would have never switched to iPhone. I would not be their customer right now.
Big part of the reason why, as a social network, and just in general, you don't want to hold more data than you need because then you become a vulnerability. Like Minds doesn't have chat keys. We don't have access to the chat at Minds because it's encrypted and it's user to user. Like if you have the keys, then when the FBI comes, you have to give them to the FBI legally. You're expected to do it. It's better not to hold the data. I would say immediately get rid of your Liberty safe if you've got one to get a new safe that doesn't have a backdoor in it because that is massive vulnerability. So someone could steal your gun.
I tried to
out
get a
there
refund.
Use it.
I didn't know about this,
make it look
Yep.
like you did it.
There's so much wrong with this. I would argue that they are not secure at all if a backdoor is installed. Someone could figure out. All right, so I don't know exactly how they generate backdoor passcodes. It could be the stupidest thing in the world where Liberty Safe has a master code for all safes that's identical, which would be insane. For all I know, they're that
1,
dumb.
2, 3, 4.
I mean, they used to do this. Without me naming the system itself, there were very common machines that were available to the public everywhere, and their unlock code was it was like 54321, and they just figured nobody would know how to access the panel to do it. And then on the internet, they were like, "Hey guys, here's how you can access the control systems for these widely available machines." I'll keep it simple. They were vending machines, but I'm not going to say which ones. And people started changing prices and doing crazy stuff, and it was like they didn't expect it to happen. And then after people caught on, they said, guys, change the default code on these machines. But as Ian was pointing out, imagine somebody, let's imagine two scenarios. One, Liberty uses a default master code. It's 16 digits and it can open any safe. Okay, you're compromised beyond belief. Anyone can just go in and do this. Now, imagine they don't do that. But what a lot of companies do, let's say routers, the router will have a serial number. They have an algorithm which creates a passcode based on the serial number of the router. If you don't know the algorithm, you don't get the password. However, activists in Spain took a whole bunch of passwords they knew and a whole bunch of serial numbers and then ran it basically through an algorithm to determine what the encryption was. And from that point on, when I was in Spain, they had an app for this that they made. We're sharing.
Wow.
You could, if the default name of the device was still available, and it would say like, you know, mobile router 78391A62, it would instantly generate the passcode based on the default name.
You'd think they would have just randomized
the same thing could be true for Liberty Safes. Someone could break into the house with an app, type in the serial number, and then it auto generates the backdoor access key. These things are worthless hunks of garbage. I think there should be a massive lawsuit. I think there should be a class action suit. I think anybody who has one of these things should get a refund on it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd want a
It's
refund.
crazy to hear this, and they're saying it's their policy. If you bought this and they didn't disclose that there's actually backdoor access, they robbed you.
They didn't disclose this.
Oh, I imagine.
Now, do every company like this have to, do they have to inform you that they have backdoor access?
I don't think so. I mean, buyer beware. If you you know, right? Like if you sell the product, there are some things you have to disclose and some things you don't. You know, in California, if you're selling food, you got to say it's got carcinogens in it, but some things you don't have to. You know?
Well, maybe this should be something that people have to do, that these companies have to do.
You'll need a federal law for that. Good luck getting that passed.
Yeah.
That's tough. The federal government is sludge.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
If they didn't know they were getting sold a machine with a backdoor, that's scandalous.
Yeah. And
Sure
I think
is.
the FBI already knew before they even called what is it called again?
Liberty Safe?
Yeah, Liberty Safe. They already knew.
He's like, who cares?
The FBI already knew, or they wouldn't have called them.
Exactly.
Fed safe.
They knew.
Consider this. The fact that the FBI contacted them and said, can you give us the backdoor key? They knew the backdoor keys exist.
Exactly.
They probably
That's
did,
crazy,
yeah.
man.
What other
That's
security
absolutely
done it
companies do they
before.
make? You guys know Liberty?
I don't know.
Because
We'll Google it.
How ubiquitous is this company right now? Gun safes, home
And
safes.
maybe this is something that Trump should. I know you said it's going to be hard, getting something like getting something passed to where these companies have to inform the buyers that they have, backdoor access. But why not let them know? Like, why not? Why should that? Wait, why would the? I mean, why should?
Why would you even have
when
the
you move into
backdoor
a house, you
access?
change your locks.
Yeah.
You move into a new apartment, you change your locks. Would you buy a deadbolt for your house if the package said, and a random guy you don't know also has a copy of your key?
Hell no.
You'd be like, what?
Hell no.
Get out of here, dude.
Hell no. But at the end of the day, I want to know. I want to know, and I think I should know that.
Yeah,
because it's my safety. You could have some mad, crazy, insane employee who could, get access to my house. I should know this.
There's you can go to a Home Depot and get a copy of your key made, but who's to say that they didn't just make an extra copy for themselves?
Right. That's true.
They don't know what that's for,
it's
though.
not a that's right.
That is very true.
Not that they know what your key is for necessarily, but
Right.
Well, they have a copy because they made you a copy. So they have the digital print for it.
But they might not know what it's for. He's saying, right? Like, what's the key for? Even.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Yeah, how would they
I mean,
know?
I
They
imagine
don't
like
know what it's for.
if you're buying something like this, there's some type of
You'd have to give your
manual
address to get a key.
on how to use it, and it's probably buried in the fine print in the back of the manual that the access would be given up if need be.
Yeah.
If you forget your code, you can always use.
Yeah, I don't know. You would think that someone would have dug through that manual and it would be kind of common knowledge about the safe company if they had it in the manual. My guess is they just never told anyone. And now they're finding out because of a high-profile case. Now, here we go. But I don't know.
Heroes, whatever the hell it is.
Some people say, some people say, and after this came out, a lot of people are saying we just don't have privacy at all, really. Like, there's no such thing as real privacy in this country.
Dude, there's satellites that can track the noise you're making. I don't know the technology exactly, but they said that there's they can put I don't know if it's a radio frequency or something through your walls in your house and then listen to you through your walls.
I'm curious.
I kind of tend to agree that privacy's gone. I think we can go out in the woods and have a really quiet conversation like this. But who's to say that the satellites aren't picking it up?
The squirrel
at this point?
can
I don't
hear
know.
you.
I don't feel like anything's private these days. I got Alexa on and the freaking listening. My phone, if you say "Okay, Google," it sparks this stupid thing up.
Don't say it. You just did.
And it's like, how innocuous is that 3 words can trigger millions of devices to go off?
They're changing it with the new iPhone. Sorry, anyone that has an iPhone, I'm warning you. Instead of saying, "Hey Siri," they're just changing it to Siri. how much of that is just going to break, you know? It's going to break. I personally turn that stuff off, but, you know.
It's like, if you
It's a
would like us to not have access, hit this button. I'm like, I'm sure you're absolutely listening to this. I'm sure you followed the letter of the law.
That should be
100% of the
off
time.
by default. My
Yeah.
God, that should be off by default.
Someone super chatted saying that it was a public square company. Let's pull it up.
Yeah, wasn't there a story about like Zuckerberg's phone got hacked once and his password was like DADA?
Well, I saw a commercial
I
with
think I
Sean
have heard something
Hannity
like that.
promoting
The safe company.
Yeah, the safe company.
Really?
So, yeah. There's a
Wow, this is
commercial
a
out
big
there.
deal.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna have to just remove it.
Yeah.
They can't. Let's search it. Liberty. TNT Liberty Safes. I don't think it's the same company, is it?
Different company.
People register their safe online.
Yeah, no, this is a
Liberty.
different company. This is very much a different company, guys. This is TNT.
Okay.
Just throw.
So that's good to
throwing
find out,
them
unless I'm
under the
wrong, but I'm
bus.
pretty sure it's a different company. This the other company is let me see. I'm searching for it. The Liberty Safes we're talking about is based out of Utah. This one said TNT. So let's
Does it
not
say where TNT is?
Liberty yeah,
Safe?
this it's different.
Okay.
It's I'm pretty sure it's a different company.
So there's more than one Liberty Safe company.
Yeah, this one's just Liberty, and then it says safe,
Yeah.
really small underneath it.
I think Liberty Safe that they're referring to, if I get this right, what they're referring to is the company's called Liberty Safe. It sounds like the TNT one. There's a company called TNT that makes it, and they just call their model Liberty Safe. But I haven't researched it, but I'm just reacting to what they're saying, and I think that's correct.
You're thinking of something different. We do not besmirch the good name of a separate company that did nothing wrong. Look, if Liberty Safes comes out and says we're abandoning this policy, we are revoking all backdoor access, it will be none of our models will have this anymore. I'd be like, okay, awesome, that's fantastic, thank you, and that's it.
But what about
And then
all
buy
these
their
old
safes.
models?
But in the meantime,
better replace it.
Oh, dude,
or service it.
Man, wow. If you have a Liberty Safe, dude, holy crap.
I believe
it's
the
secure, they
government
seem
has
good.
access to everything.
And then by proxy,
Everything.
everyone else does.
Nah,
Like you can't
yes.
trust a government agent not to tell
There's
your buddy down the
encryption.
street
You can't.
your safe password. So the next time he's over having dinner, you can just go into your bedroom and like what?
Well, of course you got to be careful.
Obviously, that's like a string
But
of
look,
crazy events, but it's possible.
But look. You've got spare keys to your apartment or your house, and a neighbor has them in case of emergencies. But it's because you trust your neighbor. Like I said, imagine if you went to the hardware store and it said quadruple ultimate level 27 ultra lock, and the key is like this weird long snake thing with all these spikes on it. You can't even understand. You're like, wow. And it's like, plus, with every order, a key is given to a random guy you've never met. You'd be like, what?
Bill in security has a copy in case you lose yours, and he'll come over and you can totally trust Bill.
Our company has a secret key to all of the locks we sell, and you don't and we're gonna give it to whoever we feel like deserves it.
That's so
without a court order.
So a locksmith came to my house. He changed out all the locks in my home, and he was like, "Man, I just gotta tell you, I love you. I'm a big fan." And I appreciated that he was a fan, but I was uncomfortable because
You don't want to say anything that makes
this
him
guy
mad.
knows me. Like he's
Gotta-
gonna go.
you
He's
know
like,
where
oh,
you
I
live.
can't wait to tell my wife and oh my cousin. And I'm like, oh no.
And
he's probably
of the
gonna tell
keys.
them.
Lock.
And
But
you know
gotta
what?
change
And
the
lock.
he's probably a good guy, but he's gonna go home. He's gonna tell everybody where I live. So I called another locksmith after him and said, I need all my locks changed again.
The thing about your typical pin and tumble
crazy.
locks, the ones you have, like, what is it? I think it's 5 numbers. So I'm not an expert on this, but my general understanding is that there's the grooves correlate with numbers, and if you know the numbers, you can cut the key. So a locksmith, for instance, when you call a locksmith and then he sticks the key in and then he marks it and he does it again and then he creates a key to open the door, he knows the numbers of your key and can recreate it pretty easily.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I just gotta be honest, you guys, the lock on your door, if you really think that's keeping anybody out, like obviously for one, someone could kick a door in very easily.
Very true.
But there's
Yeah,
things called
but
bump keys,
it's a
which are
deterrent.
basically filed down to the lowest point, and you just tap it in and turn it. It pops right open. There's also rakes, and locksmiths tend to use like I think it's called a rake gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a device you stick in and you pull it and it jiggles the pins until it pops open. Real easy to get access to.
That's why you need a gun.
You got to defend yourself.
That's why you need a gun.
Security
Thanks for
alarm,
watching this
cameras.
clip from the
It's a lot of different stuff you could use. You need a gun. You need a security alarm. Yeah, you need some notification at least if someone does enter your home. If you're there and they kick in the door, yeah, you're gonna want your gun. But if they know you're not home and they just want to steal your stuff, get a camera, something like that. But then they were talking about the privacy. Then they know everyone who comes and goes because everything's recorded and all that type of stuff. It's like security versus privacy, age-old argument. It's like, which one do you want? It's a really interesting conversation, but these Liberty Safe people, they're like despicable. You're selling a safe company that people are trying to secure their stuff, and then you're like, I'm just gonna go put a backdoor so we can get into your safe whenever you want. It's like, that is so not right. That's like evil. I wouldn't say it's quite to say it's evil, but I don't know. It's almost there, right? Because it's like, yeah, you're buying a thing for a certain reason, and then you don't even get it. You imagine buying a chair and then you go to sit on it and then it breaks. It's just like, I bought a chair to sit on. Now I can't sit on it because it broke. What's the point of this? Or you use that analogy for any product. You go and but the chair, at least what if the chair, this is a better analogy, is if you sat on it for like a year and then it breaks, randomly because of a flaw. But I guess that's not inherently evil. I don't know, maybe it's a bad analogy. But anyways, I hate that they did this. It's not good. You think your stuff is safe, and then, okay, like they were saying, that an employee or whoever could just come and just take it. You're like, I got it safe. I believe in like almost every state, you also are supposed to get a separate warrant if there's a lockbox or any type of safe. I think you need to get a separate warrant, even past what they did. They just had it for the property, and the judge didn't even issue them a warrant to give them that code. They shouldn't even have a code to give them, obviously. But on top of that, I think that you need a warrant. The FBI to even get into that safe, I think technically needs an extra warrant. I don't know federally, maybe not. But yeah, this stuff's crazy. Secure it. They seem like they're good. They appreciate it. They want their brand Liberty Safe, like, just put themselves out of business. Who would buy one of these? Why would you want, like, okay, if and I don't even, can you even call and get it? Probably not. It's probably just law enforcement and employees can get access to it. If you call them like, hey, here's my serial number. Can you give me access to this? They'll most likely say no. And if they don't, that's even worse. Someone just breaks in their house, like, oh, hey, yeah, I live here. What's your serial number? Okay, here's the backdoor code. That's a question they didn't ask. That's actually a really good question. Can someone just call and give them the serial number and just get it? Yeah, not good. They just put themselves out of business, though, so don't buy one of these. If you have one, try to just get a refund. I want to say sell it, but then you're just selling it. That's kind of mean. But, hey, if people didn't research it, I don't know. But, yeah, try to get a refund and go to secure it, I guess. I don't know. I don't have a gun safe. I don't have a safe, so I don't know. I don't know what a good brand would be, but I would tell you if I had this Liberty Safe brand, it would be gone. I'd be getting rid of it instantly, even if I just had to throw it out. I was really just trying to get a refund, or I'd be, lawsuit. It's like, this is what I bought the safe for, and it doesn't even do its function, as it turns out, and they purposely made it not do that function. Yeah, weird. But I will leave it there. I'm going to call it a night here. Definitely appreciate you guys joining me. Happy Friday. Hope you have a good weekend. I will be here all weekend, so make sure you subscribe. I also put out clips if you missed any part of the show. I'll have clips available throughout the day tomorrow, all 10 segments. So yeah, check those out. I'm on like all social, David Carson or David Carson Show, so hit me up on there. Definitely appreciate it. All right, guys, I will be back tomorrow covering more news. So, yep, until then, have a good night. Cheers.